He's got a little bit of room. 3-on-3 going in. He chips it in behind Jim Moore. Back in. Put up and in. Austin Cangelosi with the game winner in overtime. What a play!
In the game, Steedham will carry the puck behind his net and wait out the buzzer. They're on their feet here at the Covelli Center. And ladies and gentlemen, the Youngstown Phantoms are the 2018 Eastern Conference champions. They're going to the Clark Cup final.
Welcome to episode 4 of Hockey People on the Computer Getting Coffee, brought to you by Dunkin. That's tasty. I am joined by member of the Tulsa Oilers, former Youngstown Phantoms, Steve Ruggiero. Ruggsy, how are you, brother?
I'm great, my man. How are you?
Oh, doing outstanding. We're going to start with this. What have you been up to since this pandemic shut the ECHL down?
Probably a lot of the same cliche answers you've been getting, but just trying to stay busy as busy as possible. Doing home workouts and just trying to vary them as much as I can, whether it be going on runs and things of that nature. But yeah, just trying to be safe and follow the social distancing and the whole nine. But yeah, it's kind of been a crazy shakeup, obviously, with no hockey. So
this was your first season in the pros. How did it go for you?
It was good. It was an interesting experience. Being able to go to all the camps, whether it was rookie tournament, NHL camp, American League camp, and then eventually, when I was in Tulsa, I met a ton of great guys. A lot of unbelievable players, but a ton of veteran players as well. And I learned from every one of the guys. So it was a great experience, and I'm definitely looking forward to next year.
I bet you got to hang out with Kiefer Sherwood at AHL camp. How's Kiefer doing?
Kiefer's a great guy, and he was honestly the same as he was in Youngstown. He's humble, hardworking guy. He doesn't take anything for granted, and he just attacks everything he does. And he's always going, 100%. So he's just a great guy to be around, great guy to learn from, and he's a good buddy as well.
All right, awesome. Well, hey, maybe we'll be able to get a hold of Kiefer, get him on one of these, and sit down, have a cup of coffee, and talk some.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd love to do it.
So your path through junior hockey was a little different. You started with the Phantoms, and then you went on to Team USA, and I definitely want to talk about how awesome it was to get to play with some of those guys, because I know you played with a lot of kids who are already in the NHL right now.
Yeah.
You went to Providence College, came back to Youngstown for half a season, and we were definitely glad to have you back because we needed some help on the D-Corps. But then, you finish up your collegiate career at Lake Superior State. Just tell us a little bit about the journey, and then maybe tell us how just awesome it was to play for Team USA and that team that won the World Junior Challenge gold medal back there. And I think that was 15.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was good. My journey is definitely a little unique to others, as far as how my path kind of played out over the years. But I think each team offered a new experience. Every guy, especially my first year, the group as a team, we struggled, and it was definitely a disappointment for us because on paper, if you look at some of the names, we had a ton of talent, and we really had a good group of leaders as well. But we just battled some injuries and things like that, and we couldn't we couldn't turn things around the way we wanted to in my first year junior. But as far as just learning from all the guys, and you had mentioned Kiefer already, but I can honestly really would list every guy on the roster that year. I learned so much, and they kind of took me under their wing and really taught me the ins and outs of playing junior hockey and kind of living on my own and being independent and taking, my own development into my own hands. And then playing for, the US NTDP was another experience in itself. I mean, every day you're not only working to get yourself better, but there was really an emphasis on the team and brotherhood and the culture aspect. And, it's true. I mean, every guy on that roster, for the most part, was either drafted, and there was a handful of guys on my team specifically who are already proven NHLers. So when you're around that type of talent and guys who are all chasing after the same goals, it really is great. It teaches you a lot. So that was awesome. And, being able to come back to Youngstown, I think at the time was a really great decision for me. And it was nice. It's unfortunate. When I came back, I was battling, an injury or really 2 injuries at the time that I knew were kind of more severe, but I was able to manage it over the course of the season and into playoffs. But it was a great experience, and being around those guys and embracing a new role, kind of to be a leader and be a guy who brought experience and experienced playoff hockey in the USHL was awesome. So really, helped me and set me up for the next step once I jumped back into college hockey going into Lake State.
Yeah, your 16-17 season with the Phantoms, just the fire you brought was outstanding. But you mentioned the 13-14 team. That was unfortunately one of the worst teams in Phantoms history. But it did set up. You mentioned the leadership group that was there that year. The next year that team rattled off 17 straight wins and came home with the Anderson Cup. So you got to play under both Coach Noreen and Coach Patterson. I'm not going to ask you which one was better, but I'm going to ask you to compare and contrast them for me. Like, how were they different? How were they the same? Let's talk about two of the most famous head coaches in Phantoms history.
Yeah. Well, Coach Noreen was really special just because I know the guys, and at the time I was young, but the guys who were 18, 19, 20 years old, it was really easy for them to connect with Anthony, and he did a great job of being a player's coach, but being, an authoritative, figure all at the same time. Obviously, he's our head coach, and you got to pay him that respect, but he was really good at getting through to his older players, and I know that year in particular it didn't show. But, obviously over the course of his time with Youngstown, it showed, right? So, there was definitely that aspect to him as a coach that was great. And as far as Patty, him and Anthony share similar characteristics in the sense that they both are, players coaches. And they really do a great job of getting through to their guys and keeping the door open and letting guys come into the office all the time. I mean, stylistically, they had a little different approaches maybe to how they want to play in some ways, but in a lot of ways they were similar. So it was a great experience playing for both of them, and it really set up nicely for me going back the second time and playing for Patty because, there was times when I was in my first year, Patty would pick me up from Ursuline and drive me to practice. So I had a good little relationship with Patty, and it was a great experience for me.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Let's talk about your time in Youngstown a little bit more. Any favorite memories stick out from your times in the 3-3-0?
Oh, man. I mean, honestly, you know what? If I could go back, I wish, knowing what I know now, I would do the first year over, right? Because you just know so much more. And I was such a, I was a 16-year-old kid, but
invincible and knew everything, right?
Yeah, in a way, but I was so clueless at the same time. But I played with a ton of great guys. I mean, just a small scale memory. I mean, especially in the spring when the weather was kind of turning, getting a little nicer, after practice or school, whatever, me and JJ Pickenich and Kyle Connor would run to the golf course and mix in as many rounds as we could play during the week. That'd be a little small scale. And then with the second group, I mean, it was a little easier to enjoy for me because I was older at that point and I had my car, I could drive and whatever. But all the same things. My billet house specifically was a great setup, great family, and a lot of the guys would come over, and we had a good little setup in the basement. It was enjoyable. So I have a good handful of memories from my time.
Shout out your billets for me. Let's name drop them and thank them for everything they do, because obviously in the USHL, without our billets, we don't have a league.
Right. Well, shout out the Jacobs family. And Nan took me in when I was a rook. And, it was really great for me because at the time, obviously, I was still in high school. So that was, I was trying to get the best grades I could, all while being away from my mom and dad. And usually Mama Ruggs was cracking the whip on me when I was back home before I moved away. So Nan and the family did a good job of keeping me in check. And then my second time around, the Falkinghams, I mean, unbelievable family. I know a few guys through the 2 years, I think they lived there and they loved it. And I could say the same. It was a great experience. So much love to both those families always.
All right, let's talk about your teammates a little bit. I'm gonna ask you to rat them out a little bit. Who was the prankster? And you can draw from both years here. Who played all the pranks?
Oh man,
Was it you?
No. Well, no. I never was a big prank guy. As much as I'm loud and a voice in the locker room. I mean, my first year, I was the victim. I'm gonna take the victim card for sure, but I brought it on myself, right? I mean, we had some ruthless guys, Tyler Spezia, Sean Romeo, Josh Nenendal, all those guys. The list goes on. I got picked apart my first year for sure. And then, my next time around, I mean, I would say Alex Esposito, Tommy Apap, really both the Esposito brothers. The Esposito brothers were sneaky. They were a tandem. You had to watch out for them. And then, me and Jake Gingell had a pretty good relationship. We tried to even the odds, but it was tough. It was tough. There was a good little group. So, I'll throw those 6 or 7 guys under the bus. And
I like it. I like it a lot. And I've been texting I've been texting Eric a little bit tonight, trying to get him here on the show as well. Who was always running late?
Always running late. Wow, that's a tough one. I don't know.
See, that's good, though. That's good. You can't think of anybody.
I don't really have anyone off the top of my head. I'm sure if you ask some other guys, I'm sure they'd probably throw some. You know what? Because, the first year, being that I was, subject to anyone, whoever was picking me up that day, I had to be ready. So there was no option for me to be late. And if you were late, believe me, they would have held you accountable in court. And then the second group, I think it was pretty good. They ran a tight ship. Tommy and the Espo brothers and the group was pretty much on page. We saw, I think we're good in that regard. I don't think anyone was late.
I like that. All right, so who always had the energy at the end of practice? Let's say, you're just skating lines all practice long, just the worst practice you've ever had. Who could do 20 more at the end?
First group, I'm going to say Tyler Spezia. He's got that motor. Yeah, the skating's, just next level. He's got that speed as well, and he kind of just was very beyond his time in the sense that he knew how to grind through things. So I would definitely say Speez. In the second group, we didn't really get bagged too much. I couldn't really pinpoint one particular guy.
Good.
But I'll be honest, as far as the bag skating goes, that's not Ruggs' strong suit. I'll be out there chirping, but I really have no right to because I'm not a big bag skater. But I'll find ways to get through it for sure.
Ruggs, you're not a small guy, so I don't see bag skating being your.
Yeah. After the first 2 rounds, I'm carrying a piano on my back.
Speaking of the end of practice, who was always that last guy off the ice? Who were they? Hand this guy the keys, let him lock up because we want to go home.
Hand this guy the keys. Yeah, man. Let's see if I know my team. Second group, I'd probably say Chase Greasock was out. He would stay out usually later, get some work in. First group, we had a lot of guys. So, I don't want to just throw Kyle's name out there, Kyle Connor.
Okay.
But there was a lot of times just because him and a handful of guys were always big in playing games and things after practice with the goalies and stuff. But there was always kind of a group of guys. I feel like it fluctuated depending on how things were going.
All right. Who snored the loudest on the sleeper bus? Those 13, 14, 19-hour bus rides to Fargo and Kearney. Who was the worst?
I was always in the front. I'm ratting out Tommy Parron and I'm ratting out JJ Pekinich. I'm ratting them both out, especially Tommy. He could play songs through his nose over the course of the bus ride. So Ruggs was always on high alert.
That's awesome. And I had this conversation with Jack Malone yesterday, and he said Tristan Amani, and I told Jack, I said, Jack, you got to grab their pillow, you got to just move their pillow a little bit. You don't have to hit them, you don't want to wake them up, but if you grab their pillow and you move their head, you change how they're breathing, and that helps. Yeah, that helps. Yeah,
listen, you know what? I think with me, it's always unique just because in that particular instant, the first group. Honestly, if you touched any of the vets' pillows, it would have been a mistake.
No.
So it would have just been a mistake. So it was just in my best interest to let them do their thing. It was Rock Band on wheels.
Earplugs are the best thing that have ever been invented.
Yes, sir.
All right. So here's the tricky one, and if you don't want to point anybody out, I'm going to let you slide.
Okay.
If you had a sister, would you have let any of your teammates date her?
I plead the fifth. I ain't answering that one.
I said I was going to let you off the hook.
Yeah. There's a couple good guys, but I'm taking the pass.
That's fine. That's fine.
Because here's the thing. Let me tell you something. Don't be fooled with how guys work. You drop a few guys' names, and they put it in their head let me see if Ruggs has a sister, which I do. They're right on Instagram looking if it's a prospect. So I'm pleading the fifth on that one.
Hey, that's looking out for your sister, and I raise my glass to you, sir.
Yeah, suck in that coffee.
All right. So If the NHL decides to have its draft, if and when the NHL has its draft this summer, 3 kids who played in Youngstown this year, Trevor Kuntar, Colin Purcell, Ben Schoen, they all made the final rankings for the CSS.
Right.
So they might hear their name called over the course of those 2 or 3 days.
Right.
If you were talking to them right now, what advice would you have for them?
My advice for them would, and I wish I had this knowledge when I was going through the process. Listen, there's no question that everyone would love to be drafted. It's in the moment, or wherever you are, whether you're at the draft, excuse me, or you're out on the golf course and your phone goes off and it's your agent or a buddy to let you know you just got picked. Did you see it? Unbelievable feeling. And it was an unbelievable feeling. But as far as it being the end all be all, if you don't get drafted, you won't make it to the National Hockey League. That is a farce.
Not true. Not true
it's
at
not
all.
true whatsoever. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend if I was in, I went to the draft in my draft year, and there's no question it would have been crushing to not have heard my name get called. But like I said, I know a handful of guys who didn't hear their name get picked in the first year, that were drafted in their second year of eligibility, or better yet, put it in their arsenal, said, you know what, no problem, watch this, and then had monster college careers. And I was someone who was drafted, and I know where I'm at right now. And I know some guys who weren't drafted who would say, how's it going down there, Ruggs? Because they're already at the pinnacle of the sport. So all in all, you just have to, you know the player you are, and over time you'll gain more knowledge, gain more experience about how to play the game and where you best fit in lineups, for whatever teams you play with. And I just think really you have to work, and you have to decide how much you love the sport and where you want to go with it. And, things will take care of themselves in time.
All right, let's talk about that draft year in 2015. It's pick 178, so we're getting down near the end of the 6th round, and the Anaheim Ducks call your name. Tell me what that feeling was for you. You're there in the building and you hear your name called.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it was just really the most surreal feeling. Like, I had a few pump fakes over the course of the draft, thinking, I might have gone a little bit sooner than where I had gone. But it just was, honestly, it was just one of those things. Like, for me, growing up in Long Island, New York, I always dreamed of being a Ranger, being an Islander. So to have, your sights set on the NHL since you were, a baby like so many other guys, and then hear your name called at the draft and the whole 9 yards, it was really just, it was an unbelievable moment for me. And I had a good portion of my family there and 2 of my best friends from my hometown. So it was really cool. And it was even more surreal because they got, my family, my buddies got to experience it as well. So it's something I'll cherish forever, no doubt.
How do you feel playing in the USHL and playing in Youngstown in particular prepared you for playing at the NCAA and now at the professional level?
Honestly, my first year really, there was a lot of guys on that team, and I mean this from my bottom of my heart. I can go down probably every guy on that roster, about what they taught me about facing adversity, practice habits. That was probably the biggest thing. When I was a kid going into the USHL, I didn't realize the importance of practice and really absorbing a game plan and things like that. And I think within 8 weeks of the season, Connor Lemran pulled me aside, and he pretty much just said to me, he's like, if you want this sport to be your livelihood and your future, then you have to treat it like it's a job, and you have to start taking things way more seriously and paying closer attention to detail and things like that. And obviously at the time, Lems was, he was a guy who's, I believe he was in the Knoll for a little bit, and then he was, with us in Youngstown the whole year. And he was such a huge piece of the group, and he was, well respected, obviously. So kind of hearing that and then getting little tidbits from all the other guys, I just think it prepared me so much in the long run, because when I went into situations, especially being the new guy on teams, I knew that nothing was going to be given. And whether you went first round, the futures draft, or you went dead last or whatever, it didn't mean anything. At the end of the day, you had to come in and either live up to the hype and exceed it, or you were going to, not reach the mark that was, placed upon you. And, that was, it all came down to how you were going to work and the attention to detail, and then being able to execute what you were taught. So that it took me time to kind of grasp that and then incorporate it. But in the long run, it really played it had a strong level of importance in my game. So.
And Connor Limeran, just on the all-time Phantoms good guy list. I remember when it was late in the year, but his scholarship came through from Miami, and I just remember how happy the entire building was for Connor when that came through.
Oh yeah, well, he's just one of those guys that, and this is just telling the truth. Like his skill level is what it is, but he does all the little things, max effort, and he does it the right way. And he's just one of those type of dudes that would lay everything on the line for the guy next to him. And I mean, you could not know the game of hockey very well and watch Lems play one game and see that. And, so for me as a rookie, that's something I always tell guys about, that experience I had with him. I'll never forget it. We were going to, I believe, watch an Erie Otters game. We had, I think maybe the night off or the weekend off or whatever it was. And we just had a long car ride
it's a long ride from Youngstown.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. And we talked for a little bit, and he was just kind of telling me all things that as a young kid I needed to learn. And he saw, flaws early on. He said, the quicker you can, work on this, work on that, and implement this into your regimen and X, Y, and Z, you'll get to the level you want. And that's something I've always carried with me.
How special was it to win that World Junior Challenge gold medal back in 14-15?
It was really special. I mean, for me, obviously, I went in on, in the last year as on the 18-year team, and those guys were obviously there from the jump. But for me, it was definitely a little special because the first go around, I wasn't selected out of the camp for the team, and kind of being able to come in and, hold my own and lock down a role was special. It was important, and people I don't think realize the work and stuff that is, that takes place in that program, how much attention to detail, but all the little things that they have in place to be successful there. So when you do that collectively as a group and how much you're putting into it individually, it really made it special for each and every guy. And it's a long, grueling process because over the course of the year, you're always being evaluated. And I mean, they let it be known by the end of the season, if we feel you're replaceable, you will be replaced. So it made it that much more special, just kind of even being able to represent, the U.S. at that tournament, and then obviously eventually winning it was kind of the cherry on top.
So you've got, 3 years of junior experience. You went to college for 4 years. I'm sure you've come across some of your former teammates on the other side. What's that like going up against your former, your best friends, the guys you went to war with? If you're going in the corner and you see them, are you lining them up? You're gonna turn the shoulder just a little bit.
Well, it always depends on the guy, right?
It does. It does.
Yeah, it does. No, I mean, listen, it's definitely crazy because it really happens the most in from junior to college. Like you'll play maybe in some guys' cases they'll play 2, maybe even 3 years together in junior. Excuse me. Sometimes maybe they lived together. They were lived with the same billets, whatever the case was, and then all of a sudden in college, depending on where they commit and what conference they play, you're in a situation where you're playing these guys. Now they have to be your worst enemy. So it definitely makes things tough for sure.
Well, Ruggs, I think we've covered just about everything. Before I let you go, any Netflix or Hulu recommendations for us to help get us through the rest of this pandemic, however long it may last?
For me, I'm a big Money Heist guy.
Okay.
If you want a little bit of everything, and I'm pretty sure I just finished the 4th season. That was the last one that came out.
Okay.
I mean, you're starting from bottom to top. It's 4 seasons. It's about 8 to 10 episodes each season. It will definitely keep you busy. And I don't know many people who don't like it. It's a little slow to start, but once it picks up, takes off like a rocket. So I definitely suggest it.
All right. I will look into that because my wife and I are looking for a show. Well, Ruggs, thanks very much for joining us here on Hockey People on the Computer, Getting Coffee, brought to you by Dunkin. Just thanks so much, man. This has been great.
Absolutely, Lips. I appreciate you, my man.
All right, fans, thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, I am Matt Lipsack, voice for Youngstown Phantoms, and stay tuned for future episodes. Like I said, I'm working on getting Eric Esposito, maybe his brother Alex, and so Everybody, sound out, fade to black.